There's only one reason you can't let go of your past. Your ego is telling you a very seductive lie. We logically know that the past cannot be changed, yet we ruminate on it anyway. Why? Because our ego makes us believe that there's a reward for holding on. We think that if we replay our mistake in our mind, we can somehow fix them. We torture ourselves with the past to lessen our guilt, so we kind of pay for it. And we hold on to the pain to remind ourselves not to make the same mistake twice. We want to prevent our mistake from happening again. But here is what is really going on. Memory is not a video recording, it is recreating the past from a pile of information. Your ego selects specific details that help to tell the story, and it ignores the rest or edit or cut away the rest so that it can recreate the memory that it wants. Your ego is a masterful storyteller. Just like you watch reality TV, there are thousands of hours of footage recorded, but the editor only picks certain parts to show so that they can craft a story that will be appealing and interesting to the viewers. That's what your ego is doing too. For example, someone break your trust, the ego edit out all the wonderful things they did and only highlight the bad. This narrative will help you build the identity of a victim and them as the bad guy. Or your mind will randomly links two unrelated events together to create a painful story. For example, you ask your partner to grab something from a high shelf, but they drop it and it hits them. Their head started bleeding. Your ego is very good at manufacturing guilt through random association. It will associate your simple request for help with the tragedy of them getting hurt. Even though it was a total accident, it wasn't your fault. The ego handpicks the information to build the narrative of I'm guilty, I'm bad, I should never ask for help. Since our memory are a recreation of the past, a remix, not a recording, it gives the ego a lot of room for a little bit of exaggeration or distortion of facts. Especially if you have memory gaps, you don't remember exactly what happened. The ego will fill those gaps with its own bias and information to fit any narrative it wants you to believe. So now we know how our ego is a master at retelling the past, but how does it keep us from switching the channel? How does it keep us watching the same painful scene on repeat? I call this the hook and loop. All great stories have a hook to capture your attention right in the beginning. The first few seconds to a minute of a movie is very important because if it's not interesting, the viewers will not want to watch further. Your ego uses that exact same strategy. There are external triggers everywhere to hook you back into the past. It could be something sensory like a specific song playing in the background or the smell of a perfume that reminds you of someone. It could be a physical environment like driving through your old neighborhood or walking into your childhood bedroom. Or it could be a digital trigger. You weren't even thinking about your ex until they pop out on your feed looking very happy and you're like, the ego uses all this trigger to jumpstart the old stories. And once you're hooked, the ego is very great at keeping you there. Have you noticed how Netflix episodes always end on a cliffhanger? They create an open loop so that you have to click next episode to close the loop to find out what happened. Your past memories do the same thing. Once the story starts, you create mini hooks within the stories, new what if and if only that keeps the fire burning. What if I have not asked my partner for help? He wouldn't be hurt. What if I had done this earlier? What if that was my only shot for a perfect relationship? If only I said sorry to him instead of trying to be right all the time. If only I listened to my gut, yada yada yada. You get sucked into a loop and suddenly you start spending hours living through a past that ended a decade ago. It's like a front-loading washing machine. You throw in the same dirty thoughts, watch them spin in circles, and expect them to come out clean. but they never do. Because you aren't adding soup, you aren't adding a new perspective to the story, you're just tumbling the same old thought pattern until your mind is exhausted. And the momentum of the negative emotions just gets bigger and bigger. I remember walking home from the subway station years ago, fuming about something. I can't even remember what it was now, but I kept replaying the event, looping the same thought over and over again. And I just got angrier and angrier. The key is to recognize the hook and loop. Because once I was aware of it, I was like, what am I doing? Who am I actually talking to? The person isn't even here. I wasn't even in the situation right now. And then I just kind of stepped out of it. So next time you catch yourself replaying an argument or your ego starts retelling a story, notice how it never offers you a resolution. It only opens another loop and another to keep you engaged. See how your ego distracts you from the present with its storytelling. And know that you can step out of the cinema or change the channel whenever you want to. But why is it so hard to actually stand up and walk out of the cinema? That's because the ego values familiarity over freedom. It doesn't want you to change. It will keep hooking you back into the story because it feeds on the energy of the past. It will rather you stay as the identity of the villain or the victim, roles it already know how to play, than let you become someone it can't control. It's a survival mechanism to keep itself alive. Let's say you weren't that conscious in the past, you make mistakes, you hurt people. Today, your consciousness has shifted, you have grown, and you realize your past action weren't right. You're not that person anymore. But your ego will hate this evolution. It wants to keep you pinned to that old identity, the cheater, the failure, the bad person, so that it can keep feeding on your guilt and energy. It would rather have you suffer in a story that you understand than let you be free in a reality it doesn't. But even when you try to walk away, something pulls you back. There is an invisible tether that connects your present self to that old version of you. And that tether is your emotions. Emotion is the juice of the memory. You don't remember a random Tuesday 10 years ago. You only remember the moments that hit you with intense joy or deep pain. It's the reason you can't just logic your way out of the past or think your way out of the past. If you don't possess the feeling, the emotion attached to the memory, the ego will always have a hook to pull you back into the narrative. The most dangerous trick the ego plays is it convinces you that thinking about the pain is the same thing as feeling and healing the pain. It's not. There is a difference between telling the story and feeling the feeling. When you loop the argument in your head, you aren't letting go, you're just pouring more gasoline on the fire. To actually move on, you have to feel that intensity of the emotion without the story. If you don't know how to do this, here's a little tip that I use. Music is actually a shortcut. Music can help you feel and move your emotion through your body. Music is moving. I remember a decade ago, I was stuck in depression, suppressing my anger, and I couldn't even access that feeling. So I played the soundtracks to Kinky Boots, a musical. They helped me feel my emotions. My life wasn't the same as the characters on the stage, but the frequency of the emotion was identical. So by focusing on the music, I could feel and express the anger without getting sucked back into my own narrative. But your ego is very stubborn. Even after the emotion has cleared, you may still find your ego keeps pulling you back to the same old story, still retelling you the same old thing. This is where you have to take the lead and dismantle the story and rewrite your own. You have to realize that the past doesn't exist. It's just a story you are telling yourself right now. A recreation where you have the power to direct the narrative. You can choose to tell a story that benefits you instead of one that haunts you. Of course, I'm not asking you to deny reality or pretend that things didn't happen. I'm asking you to shift your perception and change your interpretation of the past event so that you don't get disturbed by them. Every setback you face or mistake you made can be reframed into a narrative that actually serves your growth. For example, you can say that I made a mistake in the past and I am an absolutely horrible person. Or you can say that I make a mistake in the past and I learned to become more compassionate and forgiving. Your past has momentum. If you tell the same story, it pushes you into future A, the same emotion. But if you interrupt the pattern by feeling the feeling and changing the story, you shift your trajectory from future A to future B, and you become free. So you have a choice. If you struggle to shift your perception, watch this next video. We'll dive deeper into transforming your suffering.